There we go. Lovely when the little lady tells me that. And I will just put it onto, and I'll just pin my video just now. There we are. Hopefully that helps with the recording. So, yes. So the whole thing, I suppose, about getting started with self-publishing is you really want to think about the key thing is that you're then both writer and publisher. And that's the shift, I think, that people then sometimes struggle to make, because when you're writing your book, you're immersed in your story, right? You're the one who knows absolutely everything that you're telling your story. And, you know, so it's almost, I describe this as people kind of being heads down, typing away, furiously involved there. Your stories become very real to you. Your characters become very real to you. And the first stage of then sharing that story out there with somebody else is when you come to an edit. Because then your first view of editing your whatever you've written is then taking a little bit of a step back and reading your own work. It's also something that's really helpful to do if you can have, you know, someone else edit. And depending on what your aspirations are for publishing and books, if you want to sell books, if you want to actually, you know, get people to read it, then really you want to work with somebody who is who's going to edit your book that's not, you know, not just your friend. Unless they've got good editing skills, you want somebody else to be able to kind of work on that, read your stories, and take an external view, because it's often so difficult to kind of edit your own work, because you just look at it and you see what you thought you were writing, whereas an editor sitting in the background is going to kind of come at that completely fresh. So editing is one of the crucial points. If we kind of do a little fast track and we assume that you've now got your book edited and you're kind of ready to go, this is the point at which you start to look or think like a publisher. And it's understanding your genre and understanding who your target audience are. And there's things that you can do to research that before you even begin to think about cover design and stuff. You can actually go and have a look at where would your book sit on the bookshelf. And, you know, so you can do that really easily now by looking on Amazon or any of your online bookstores and narrow down where your genre sits. You know, where would your books that you're writing, what genre would it sit in? So, Colin, if you're writing kind of sci-fi, you know, mix of humour, sci-fi, then you're going to look at those, you know, books that would sit on that shelf. Who are the best authors that you would love to be beside on the bookshelf? Because that's the thing to kind of look at. Look at what are they producing? How does their book look? What's actually even current in the marketplace? Because this is something that I do with any of the writers that we're working with. We have you've got a sense of really trying to understand the book that's been written and how that's going to be portrayed, but you're also looking to try and capture the audience. And book covers, if you actually, even if you walked into a bookshop, you would probably see that there are certain similarities that appear. If you've got, I'll pull this from behind me. Right? So here's one. This is Hannah Powell's book. Now Hannah's written the Cactus Surgeon. It's using nature to fix a faulty brain. She just won the best memoir at the Selfies awards at London Book Fair, and which we're absolutely delighted about. And what they said particularly was that the cover and the book just was absolutely perfect for her marketplace. A memoir all about sort of her personal story through healing her own kind of mental and physical well-being. So, it's something that's then going to stick really, really clearly in a book cover. I'll just pull something. So you've got, I said one, I think there's, crime, there's a crime series, you've got the kind of hint that's kind of, you've got something that's dark, it's a bit curious, there's something going on. And with Sinclair's books, this sort of banner, when he's got a series of books, this is one of the things that we use to kind of style and pop out. So your cover's obviously got to fit your genre. And one of the one of the best ways to have a look at that is if there's been a bestseller in your particular genre that you're writing, all of a sudden you will see that publishers sometimes will actually even reissue books and change covers, or there will be a particular style that then even the kind of mainstream big publishers will then piggyback on. I mean, it's quite late. It's almost kind of lazy marketing, but it's that notion that when people are familiar with something, they will look, if they can easily see at a glance, oh, that looks like something like that. If I like that, I'm going to like that. So that's what some of the stuff that you're thinking about at this time when you're designing a book cover. It's what's current. So looking at what are the best sellers. Where does your genre fit? Who are the best-selling authors that would be writing a similar style of book to you? And then thinking around sort of the placement of the image, the text, and playing around with that till you get something that actually that suits. And you can have that's the thing, you can have multiple different versions of stuff. And often we will, we'll have a few different goes at designing a cover until we get something that we think would work. And I mean, Liz is on the call just now. We're working with Liz on her Feather in Many Colours, and there was a few designs kind of trying to kind of get to create your book cover until something that we think, yep, that looks like that would be the one. So it's never a first go. The other things I would suggest that are really important are the typefaces, and this, I think this is one of the things to elevate your cover. Because we have been involved in publishing and self-publishing for such a long time, it's quite easy still to spot something that someone has done on their own if they haven't really understood the design of a cover. And the typeface is often the thing that actually gives it away, because people will choose very simple fonts, or they'll go for something like Comic Sans or something like that, because it's like, oh, they've used that and before. So the kind of placement of the text, the style of the text is really key as well. You want to be able to see it. And if you think of a book cover, most people now are buying things online, so they're looking at book covers in thumbnail size. So what you want to make sure is that you're going to actually stand out as a really, really small icon. So you can play around with things for yourself. I mean, even if you are trying to do everything on your own, then what you can do is sort of play around with sort of designs and images. And you can do that on something like Canva. Even if you've come across Canva, it's something that you can do for yourself. If it's about a kind of professional level of self-publishing, that's where we kind of come in, because people are kind of looking, to kind of really kind of take their skills and their book up a little notch. So they want to kind of stand out and be, be involved in that kind of more professional look. So it's definitely worth something that you can start with on your own. Because you're saying it's difficult to kind of determine the genre or subgenre. I think so. One of the things about that, and sometimes you might be writing, and if you were saying sci-fi and humour, and if those are overarching, if there is part of the same book, then pick the main topic. So we have some questions that we ask all of our writers when we're doing design, and it's really going, so what is your book really about? Who are your main characters? What is the storyline? What are you trying? What's the what story are you telling? Is it plot driven? Is it character driven? Is there a big story at the end? Is there a reveal? Is there trying to just kind of hone in on what it is that you're wanting your reader to understand, and you have to kind of pick one, because I think this is the difficulty. If you don't pick one and you try to appeal to everybody, you don't appeal to anybody, because nobody can actually understand then where your book sits. So yeah, the other thing you can do is get other people to read your stuff and ask them. Just give it out to a few people and ask them, what do you think? Where do you think you would pick this? Just having some confidence and say, like, give it to a few folk and say, right, okay, what do you think? Where would you see this book sitting? Because that can help as well.
It seems to fall into like when you look through the Amazon categories, there's like space opera and space adventure and military space, and like how to determine where it falls into that kind of genre.
Right.
Is the difficulty that I'm having.
Okay. So, again, some of that stuff is then the marketing side, and it's trial and error on occasions. So if you say that it's space opera as an example, and you just you use that category, if you've got a sci-fi book, that you're going to have, you want it to be easily identifiable as a sci-fi book first and foremost. So as long as your cover is going to do that, and your blurb is going to do that, because that's the thing, isn't it? We start with cover design, then we turn it round, we read this. If we're interested in this, then we start to do a little bit on the inside, and then we might buy a book. Online, you're doing the same. You're identifying the cover, and then you're looking at the description underneath, and you might preview if you can and read a little bit, and more often than not, and look and see, what does other people think? How many reviews have we got? And then somebody will buy it. So when you're looking at subcategories in the likes of Amazon, you can, obviously you can actually change those categories. You can, depending on how you've published and what platform you've used to kind of publish your book, you can go in and change those categories and see if that makes an impact on sales. So, I think rather than if you've got your main audience and where you would see you think it is first and foremost, and then try playing around with it around the market and stuff, is whether that has a difference in sales, would be my guess. Anything else about cover design? Anybody else want to ask? Or you can either put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. That's okay. So I suppose then moving on beyond the cover. So you've got if you imagine that we've got our cover design, we've got out there. So Colin, you've obviously got a couple of books that you've done.
So I've got 3 out at the moment.
Right.
One's a science fiction, a kind of multi-genre short stories, and a non-fiction.
Right. Okay. So how are you publishing them just now? How have you got them out on sale?
So the science fiction and the multi-genre short stories are on Kindle, and the non-fiction is via Ingram Spark. Right.
Okay. So those are the two. Exactly. Same. The kind of two main kind of platforms really to be able to put your book out on. You can. Ingrams are really good. We love them, for the quality of the print. You can distribute to Amazon from there as well if you want to. You can also you can distribute your ebooks through Ingrams. We tend to do a dual sort of platform stuff now. So as well as having Ingrams, we would use Amazon KDP for print and ebook format. Just because Amazon, being Amazon, can sometimes decide that other suppliers of their books, that they would rather prioritise their own. So there was sometimes would be issues around availability if it was coming purely from Ingrams across. But Amazon's a great platform. Yep.
Can I ask, in that case, would you have a different kind of ISBN or ASIN between Ingram and Amazon?
No. Okay. One ISBN per book, per style of book, per format of book. So if you've got so the same ISBN can be used for Amazon and for Ingrams, because your ISBN is actually related to the format. So if it is a paperback, then it is one ISBN for that paperback, as long as the print size is the same. If you were doing a hardback edition, it requires a second ISBN. If you've got an ebook, then again you can require a second, a third, ISBN. You can apply a different ISBN to your ebook. Each format requires a different version. And that's sometimes, these are things that, this is the world of publishing. And I think this is where people get caught up a lot. Amazon have made it easy, and Ingram Spark now I'll go with Amazon first. Amazon have made it easier for people who don't know anything about the publishing world really to upload a book, because they kind of concentrate on, you can upload Word documents, you can create JPEGs, you don't even need to have an ISBN, they'll take you can actually publish straight through them using their own numbers, and that's absolutely fine. Which, if you want to keep entire ownership and control of stuff, this is what we say, is that you buy ISBN numbers and register them and own them yourself, because it's the best way of keeping control. So if you are self-publishing, then having control of your book is really important, I think. Ingram's technology, or not even the technology, but their terminology is really the word I was looking for. They use a lot of publishing terms, and the publishing world, as everything, it's full of jargon and assumptions that people know what distribution is and publisher compensation is and all sorts of things that are there. So, and it's because Ingrams have been around for a long, long time. Their parent companies have been involved in the traditional publishing world. They've been doing print runs forever. They were just very savvy and realised that they could offer what they did to publishers, to individual people who were wanting to get their books out on sale. But it's their setup is a little more complex, and we do find people who've tried to do stuff themselves on Amazon and then get to Ingram Spark and go, oh, I'm stuck, can we help them? Because that's where people get a little bit confused on. Okay, so if we're assuming then we've got a brilliant cover, we've got a great book inside, because that's your main job first and foremost, is to make sure that you've written a really, really good book that you can get out there. And I know that Liz has written a really good book, and you're in the midst at the moment of doing a little bit of edits on it just now.
I'm editing leave to try and get done before the end of this month. A week left.
Yep. Sorry.
It's quite difficult, because what I've done also, I've put, as I've gone through each chapter, I've put it on the audio on my laptop, and just even listening to someone else reading it out, it gives you such a different perspective, and it's quite an eye-opener, really. So I'm having to tie up some loose ends that the reader wouldn't understand that I understood. So there's a lot of that at the moment.
Yeah. That's a great tip. Something that Sinclair did early on when he was writing as well, was just get the computer to read stuff back to you, because exactly that, when you're typing stuff and you're reading it yourself, I am the world's worst editor. Let me tell you, I could not edit anything, because I never spot issues like this. I'm good at developmental overview of where's the big picture of something, but in the detail, that's not my focus. And when you think that you've written something and you know what your character was going and where they were going to go and what was going to happen, and it's in your head, yeah, it's fine, I've done that. And then if you listen to it back, you're listening then with a different part of your brain is engaged. So that's that.
And Christine, my editor, she pointed out a few things that didn't quite make sense, and there were chapters that I'd moved around to make more sense in the book, and the timeline was completely off. I was going from like June back to February, and really obvious things that I didn't even think about.
Yeah. So once you've done that, if you've worked on your book and you've got it to the best content that it can be, then the main issue about self-publishing is then you've got to turn it into a product that is worthy of what you've got inside. Because that thing about, we do judge the book by a cover. We are going to decide whether somebody reads something or not, depending on whether it looks like what I'm expecting. It is that packaging that is really important, and either working with with us, obviously we do the full package of, creating the covers and creating the interior design and creating the ebooks and getting them up on sale and handling all the sort of publishing tasks. So Liz doesn't have to worry about that. That's what we're doing with you. But if you're doing it on your own, then some of the key things then are you can find editors on your own. You can find cover designers on your own if that's not your skill base. You can go and read and learn. There's lots and lots of information out there nowadays about self-publishing. So you can spend a lot of time learning the different elements of stuff to kind of put in place. And I think it's even if you've got somebody working for you, I'm a great believer in that you actually should learn and understand how it works as well, because that gives you then you're coming at this as a position of sort of ownership of your, because effectively you create a new business. If you're actually self-publishing, this is a little mini business, and your book is a product, and then you have to try and sell that product to the people that are going to actually really enjoy reading what it is that you write. And that's the bit that I think is probably the challenge then for most people who are publishing themselves, is that, oh yeah, they love to write and they want to get their book out there, and then it's like, okay, how do I make sure people find it? And that was the thing that came up then in the chat, the poll as well, about sort of marketing and getting your book found. So let's see. So Eliza, what is it that you what are you writing? What sort of books are you doing?
And I'm working on it, like I've said, it in Glasgow, because there's so many that you're getting that's like America or elsewhere. So I've been working on that a wee while, and I used quite a bit of it for my MA in creative writing.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of missed the first of it. You just kind of cut out a little bit as the start there. So what is it? What genre and what is it you're writing about?
So it's urban fantasy. Set in Glasgow.
Okay, yep.
Which, like, I do enjoy the urban fantasy books. But when I did like my in creative writing, it wasn't. So that was a wee bit off. My thing at the moment is needing to find editing, like someone to help edit, in order to kind of progress to the next level, before getting to like book covers and actual publishing as well. So it's just to kind of, I want that in place. I'm nearly finished, but I kind of want that in place so that I know I've got a next step to go to.
Yeah, okay. So one of the things certainly that you can do, I mean, that's great. Sounds interesting. That whole urban fantasy and set in Glasgow would be great. There's, the number of movies that have been set in Glasgow, which are actually being filmed in Glasgow nowadays, even if they're not set there. It gives you a good backdrop.
Yeah, exactly.
For stuff. So, I mean, finding an editor is, I mean, there are lots of places that you can look. I mean, if you're there's the Alliance of Independent Authors are, if you've come across them, I mean, if you're a member there at all, they've got their own editorial, there's partner members in there that are really good, that are, that you can contact. I mean, obviously we have our own editorial team that work with us. We've just sourced people that actually work with different genres as well, because we work with writers doing all sorts of things. Yeah. Is that, I've just kind of gone out and found editors and interviewed them and kind of found out a little bit more about them and what sort of genre. I mean, even just asking up on socials, there's a couple of sites that you can connect with. If you're on Instagram or if you're on Facebook, then you can actually even just posing a question out, yourself, saying, I'm looking for an editor who actually works on kind of urban fantasy, any recommendations. And before you know it, you'll get a whole lot of people will say, opportunities to kind of come in and pitch stuff. I'm having a little bit of trouble. I think it's our internet today. It's a little bit slow. It's glitchy. And the other thing I would say is, in terms of going to professional edit, is obviously then an investment you know, and going forward with your book, gathering, one of the one good thing that you can do for yourself is gather a little kind of street team, a wee mini advanced readers group.
Yeah.
You know, and that's about then having the confidence.
I've got that already.
Right. Okay. Great. That's good. Yeah. So yeah. That edit, you know, that level of, you know, getting an overview. This is you get an overview from others who are reading it, and hopefully that gives you an opportunity to kind of move forward. Maybe then into something where you might need to do a little bit of editing, you know, with that. So, but it's definitely worthwhile having. Is my mic sounding really glitchy as well now? Or is it just me that's hearing the echo? Okay, so editing, book cover design, marketing. Marketing's probably the key thing then. I would imagine that everybody else would want to spend a couple of minutes on, wait a minute, I'm going to maybe take this. I don't know if it's this. I think that seems okay. Sorry. Yeah, so finding your audience is often the tricky thing that everybody goes, oh great, now I've got a book, what do I do? How do I find my audience? And one of the things I say to people, first of all, is think about where you're selling and having a kind of plan as to where you want to sell your book and how are you selling your book. Because if your main focus is in ebooks, for example, and it's on Kindle, and that's the only place that you really want to focus your sales, then your marketing to find people, you're going to make sure that you want to talk to people who are going to be using Kindle for a start. And there's different things that you can use with the Kindle promotions. If you're on, you know, if you're on Kindle Unlimited, are you exclusive to them? Are you doing countdown deals and discounted deals and free days and things like that? You know, there's things like that you can do to get your book in front of somebody else in Kindle. But if you're maybe concentrating on physical book sales and it's paperbacks, and you think that actually you want to be selling in bookshops or in a or even you take a stall at your local marketplace, then the marketing you're going to do for your book is going to be different, because you're actually going to be trying to drive people to a particular location and point in time to buy books. So one of the key things, I think, first of all, before people even think about how to market, is figuring out where you want to where do you want to focus people on the sales side. And then there are numerous things that you can do, and that's where sales and marketing are different. This, you know, the sales focus is literally it's the number of books that are going to sell and how much money do you want to make, and what you could do with going forward to, you know, lead people down a path if you've got a series of stuff coming. You know, those are things that you want to kind of think about. Colin, could it cover the benefits of the Kindle free days in relation to sales? Okay. If you said you had a couple of, but if you've got free, giving your book away for free is useful if you have other books that people are going to then sell. You're going to sell them something else, right? So I think these things work best when you've got another book. If you've got a series, for example, if you have another book that's actually still related, so it's another space opera or something, and you give your first book away for free, then you get known. It's changed a lot though. Like I said to you, we've been involved in self-publishing our business 10 years, and it for ourselves for 12. Things have changed a lot over that time, and Amazon and other platforms are more now trying to get you to spend money on advertising, and have that sort of like come in front of mind for people. And the free giveaways and the free days and the used to work really well to get you an audience, but there are so many books out there now. So I think that's something that you think of as maybe as part of a strategy. And again, some of this stuff as well is try it and see. So you're not going to give your book, well, There are some people who choose to write a book that's going to be permanently free, right? They do perma-free books, and that's just to entice readers in because they know they're writing other books, and if they get you hooked and you love their book, you're going to look to buy, and you'll then buy the next things. In the same way with Sinclair's books and his series of stuff, the first book would be cheaper. You'd do a discount deal on the first one, and then, you'd price them accordingly. So if somebody really likes that, then they'll go on and they're willing then to pay something for the next one and something for the next one because they can see the benefit of it. If you've got stuff that's completely different, the only benefit of giving something away for free is reviews and featuring maybe higher up a chart that if somebody was searching for something, they start to see you. So you could think about it strategically, that I need reviews because, as we've said before, we're all so conditioned these days to be reading to see what other people's reviews are of a book or anything before you buy something. So if you don't have a lot of reviews there, then giving something away and knowing that you might get readers and then get reviews might be a strategy. But I would also caution, because when you do give your book away for free and people have got it sitting there on their Kindle, that you could have given a lot of copies away and they actually never ever get round to reading it. There's an element for me about if something's free, then people don't necessarily value it the same if they had actually spent, even if they had spent 99 cents or 99 pence, to buy that, then they might actually go, oh, well, I've spent the money on it, so I'm going to go and read it. So there is no, and the other thing I'm going to it might be a disappointment to hear, but there is no one way to ensure that you're going to really reach lots of people and have book sales. There's just lots of levels of things that you can put in, and it very much depends on the genre that you're doing, your audience, how much time you have, what do you find to be fun in terms of marketing. I'm a great believer that if you really hate it, you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to do it. It's going to come across as like, oh, they really don't like doing this. So if being on camera like this is not your thing, and you absolutely hate it, you're never ever going to be comfortable with it, then try to do some video stuff to whether it's just you talking to camera is probably not going to work for you. But if you actually are really good in a group and you can actually entice people or go on to other groups, come and join into other groups that are running there for writers, and there's promotion groups around, on lots of different platforms, then maybe the thing is to kind of get in and make connections, because we all buy books if somebody recommends them to us. I mean, that's the number one reason somebody's going to buy a book is because you said, oh, you must read that, it's really good. And if you can get a few people doing that for your book, then that starts to drive more people to head there. Does that help? Does that make sense, Colin? So cool. All right, I'm conscious of the time. We've obviously only had a small group. Jim's I don't know if he's just disappeared or he's just lurking in the background listening. Is there anything else you particularly would like me to kind of touch on today? And if there's not, then what I'll do is I'll just I'll take the recording off and we'll just open up the mics just for us just to have a chat amongst ourselves, because there's only 4 of us. There's no point in me putting you into another breakout group. We can do that as here. So anything else you want an answer to today?
The only one from a personally selfish viewpoint is, so I've got a short story book, a series of short stories that's a combination of funny, ha-ha, funny, odd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going quite well in the UK. But I kind of don't know what genre to put that in, or how to go about marketing it or advertising it, because it tends to be it's either it's a funny book or it's a Twilight Zone ending type book. And while the funny stories have a Twilight Zone type ending, it's a kind of a combination of the two.
Okay, so you've said that it's actually doing quite well just now.
Yeah, it seems to be because I'm originally from the UK. It seems to be going well. I think the humour appeals to the UK audience.
Okay. And you want to grow the number of people that are going to buy it. Is that really the aim?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you got, I mean, you could put a link up if you want, so that we can actually have a little look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have a little look, because that could be a, you know, worthwhile doing. I can take a little look at it.
Spend a couple of minutes awkwardly watching me.
Trying to find it. That's okay. Well, I won't watch, but you can just during that we'll get the link up. This is, you know, having reviews for your book and getting people. I mean, one of the things is usually say, try to get friends and family to share it, and that's often the way everybody goes, oh, they don't, you know, it's starting with your inner circle almost, if you've got people that'll do it.
Interestingly, I've had people who've said, yeah, absolutely, I read it and it's been really good and I have to review it. But then Amazon had this thing now of you've got to spend $50 over the. Yeah,
it depends. I mean, Amazon, and getting reviews. One of the things with Amazon reviews is if they do think somebody is just writing a review for you and they haven't even bought, you know, they'll take reviews down. That it's one of those things to understand, that you don't own any of the platforms that you're selling your book on, unless it's your own website. You don't own it. Same with your social media stuff. If you've got if you've spent a lot of time building up a Facebook following, or an Instagram following, or a Twitter, or whatever it is, you do not own any of those. So the one thing I would say to every writer is start an email list. Try and entice people to come and talk to you, because you can talk to them directly. Even if you never want to set up, sell stuff, one-to-one, but if you can actually communicate directly with the people that are reading your book or are interested in your book, it's a much better, for longevity, it's a much better thing. So think about something that you could entice them to come and actually give you their email address for. What would be useful, a little behind the scenes, snippet of something, a short story that's not sold anywhere else, and they're going to get it exclusively if they come, write a short story that's just for them. Something about maybe your characters, something about getting access to a little bit of a freebie, a kind of come and meet the author and have a chat, something like that people would give you your email address for. Is also is useful. Right, what I'm going to do is I'll need to come back to this. I'm going to actually probably have to stop the recording.